back to another Linux Gamecast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Qo'noS released Vulkan. Think about that. It doesn't make sense, and Fraxis is really, really sorry. They had no idea that XCOM 2 ran like ours. Hashtag pinky swear.
NVIDIA and Intel have Vulkan drivers on day one. AMD, well, do I even have to say it? And a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, a certain mouse is starting to get litigious.
For a split second, I thought we might finally get a Wipeout type game on Linux. Then the Unity screen of no popped up. And a unicorn of open source NVIDIA Maxwell drivers is real. We're waiting for its beautiful rainbow diarrhea.
I'm Ben Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits, running the board, and joined every week by one Canadian that has living proof that you do not need a hockey stick to make them mean. Massasphere.
You just need maple syrup.
That's it, man. And all the way from Portugal, Pedro.
Hello!
Mateus. And together with Shadowrealm Dynamic joining us live around 9:30 Eastern Standard Mood Time, we form that little bit that is known as Cocaine Voltron. But before we get started, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. J-Baby, what's up?
So I finally got around to throwing Cyanogen Mod 13 on the Nexus 7, and I'm pretty impressed with the stability of it so far. Only one spite nope when it went completely non-responsive. And apparently I'm relearning Python for the umpteenth time because I have reason to program it now.
What's going on in Space Portugal?
Not a whole lot. This week it was actually pretty busy at work, so I didn't have a lot of free time, but I am currently looking for cheapo laptops. So if you have a suggestion, you know where to reach us.
All right. Over here Thursday, I had a brilliant Thursday planned. I put some new shoes on Turbo Jetta, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go drive up North Georgia mountains. That's definitely a thing I like to do and just get lost because I'm not worried about anything. Got my MiFi, got the Nexus 10, so I was like, derp. Okay, I'm genuinely lost. And I was like, all right, let's cut this thing on and cut on the sat-nav thing. No signal whatsoever. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I was like, well, Turbo Jetta has sat-nav. Couldn't get a GPS lock. And I mean, I was in the mountains. You know, I was like, boy, you got pretty hair. I was like,
I mean, you did make friends with those cannibals.
Yes. I mean, that was the thing. I became the leader of their tribe. However, I managed to find apparently the strip mall motel that is a thing in the rafting season, and I was extorted out of 25 wet, stinky caches to access the Wi-Fi for a day. They charged me for a day to use for 2 minutes to download the local maps for the area. And yeah, pro tip. If you're out derping around anywhere where you might not have a good signal, just download the maps. But what's a horse downloading for us this week, J-Man?
Well, the horse seems to have grown itself a new button. It's new and exciting. It's our Seamless Update of the Week.
Yes. Live long and prosper, the OS. The new Steam OS Brewmaster Beta comes with some Vulkan drivers, but it's not the Vulkan drivers you actually need, so to speak, if you want to test some Vulkan-y bits with the Talos principle, which, if you've been paying attention in Chat Realm, that's basically what we've been doing since Thursday. Yeah. So, yeah. The new Brewmaster Beta comes with the 355.00.26, but if you want to try it with the Talos principle, you need the .27 drivers. So, yeah, you might have to wait a little while until Valve gets around to it.
Well, I also heard this came with the update to the glibcs, didn't you, man?
Yeah, I mean, a little less glamorous than the Vulkan drivers. They have some... It's your standard apt-get upgrade, ampersand apt-get update, or it's the other way around, fair. Yeah, security patches and lots of nice little CVE listings. Apparently there was some big glibc bug that I'm drawing a blank on when I'm trying to remember what it is, but that is patched. But, you know, we're sorry.
We're sorry. We're really sorry.
Very
comes
sorry.
from Rock, Paper, Shotgun. You can find this Nightmare Fuel in our show notes after the fact. Fraxis, they said we're working furiously on XCOM 2 fixes. We didn't know it would be this way at launch, guys. Please believe us when we say that, because we're lying through our teeth organs. Pedro, didn't Total Biscuit even mention, like, the first time with his early access version with his Titan, he's like, yeah, this thing has performance issues even on the Windows.
Yeah, that's the thing. He has two Titan X's, and he tried them both at SLI and with just one card, and he said, yeah, whenever the action cam kicks in, you're getting some pretty serious performance dips. So they need to fix that, and he even brought up the fact that the first XCOM, or XCOM Enemy Unknown, had the exact same issues.
I don't know, man. I mean, just... Fraxis, you did good. You got Feral to port this, and Feral did a fantastic job of porting what you gave them. I mean,
yeah,
with all the problems.
It's not on Feral to fix all the performance bugs, but they're saying that they're going to be releasing some new patches. They released one earlier this week that didn't actually do anything. But I'm curious.
Yeah, it was just a teeny tiny hotfix.
Yeah, what's the delay going to be between Firaxis releasing their patch?
Yeah, I mean,
getting that out
definitely something that's going to take toll on us because there is going to be that time delay. And I'm just saying, why do you guys... I'm just insulted that they're trying to shovel this, doing the PR thing of going, oh, we had no idea. Our QA guy who apparently runs some moon hardware and all that business. But I mean, it's just really insulting to the people that buy your product. And then again, we're going to have to wait for the delay. No fault of Feral's again. And kind of like what we said at the end of the review last week for it is this game is going to be awesome next year.
You got to release though, man. Fix bugs later. Don't need to. You can release complete garbage. Look at Raven's Cry. They fixed it.
Those are fighting words.
Oh yeah. So Street Fighter V came out recently, and even though that it was announced, SteamOS version is not coming out at the same time. They are saying it's going to be released in the spring. Apparently, they're working closely with Valve engineers. Are these the same Valve engineers that got us our Rocket League port on time? Oh wait, they didn't. But yeah, I mean, if you want to spool up the rumor drive, this spring may be. I mean, the big news this week is, of course, that Vulkan got released. So maybe they're working on a Vulkan renderer for Street Fighter V?
That could be neat. I mean, we saw initial release. We'll definitely be talking more about Vulkan later on. But, P-Man, what's the under and over? Do you think this will even see the light of day before the end of this year?
No. This is Valve time we're talking about.
Okay, what do you think will come out first? Rocket League or Street Fighter V?
Considering Rocket League
Carmageddon
and its
Linux.
promised Linux port has been, in development for a while, probably Rocket League, yeah.
All right. Well, it's good guy Valve. At least they gave us a release season. That's
season, yes.
All right, let's talk
Spring
about
is
some
sprung.
Schwoods.
Yes, the Brushwood Buddies. I was sorely disappointed to not see a Brian Brushwood rendition in it. But yeah, this is done. It's a game by Stephen Colling. He sent us some keys, so we've played around with it a little bit. This is a one-man project. He did all of the development and publishing on his own. And the game itself is basically aimed at kids. And when I say kids, I mean too young to play Minecraft. It also seems to only want to use a third of my 1080p screen, leaving like a shit ton of pixels.
Pedro, did you not install glibc 215 plus OS?
Well,
Look,
I mean,
we know that this was a Flibit or an FNA port. That's not what's in question here. What's in question here is that he very clearly wanted it to be played on, say, a tablet or a phone, because the Play Store is where it's at. But he also wanted to make some free monies, as it were, so he put it up on Steam for $3. Hey, it's a pretty good price.
The title of the game seems like a Happy Tree Friends spinoff, and I was a little disappointed to see no blood or guts. But
yeah, no, there's none of that.
But speaking of guts, Crow Team has a Talos Vulkan something or other. Yeah, they've released a beta for Vulkan for the Talos Principle. They promised that a couple weeks ago, and they've gone and delivered. The Windows version dropped first, and they got the Linux version out about a day later. So if you have the 355.0027 drivers, you can add yourself a little launch flag and test out the Vulkan functionality. We actually have a thread in Chat Realm where Ven and a few others are running benches to see how it matches up with OpenGL performance for the Talos Principle. And we got some shocking results, didn't we?
A couple things. I mean, at first we thought there was something horribly wrong with the things, and turned out I still had VDPAU support. Yes, that was a thing in one of the earlier betas. Then I sorted it, and it turned out for once, because we were talking about this before the show, is with OpenGL, because Pedro, your octa-core is basically a 95 TDP version of my 8150, right?
Slightly more up to date, but yeah, basically.
Basically, but you have a 970 and I have a 980, and all of our benches are always like kind of close. This was the one bench where I was like, "Look, guys, I got a 980. That extra 0.5 gigajoules of RAM really helped out."
So increased clock speed.
Yeah, P-Man, what were your thoughts on it?
I mean, at first it was kind of crazy because I saw the chat realm post and I'm like, oh, wow. Van's only getting 38.5 FERPs without Vulkan and 66 with Vulkan.
I had the Bizarro 980. Yeah, so it was
yeah, okay. So maybe Vulkan really is doing the things. So I ran it on my end and I installed the 355.27 drivers and I'm like, okay. So I was getting 81.1 with the 355 without Vulkan and 56 FERPs with Vulkan. What the hell's going on here? And apparently, what was going on is, like Ven already mentioned, he was still using that VDPAU decoding thing that they added into the game a while back just to test it, and he still had that enabled. But he didn't disable it fast enough before it showed up on PC Per.
No. The article absolutely didn't show up on PC. Wait, I'm sorry. Yes, there's a LinuxGamecast article on PC Perspective right now.
It's a bit of a bizarro world. It's from the same planet as that 980. But I mean, Crow Team knows what's up. They're not going to get any good regression testing on a few of their systems. If they make this available to the world, you're going to get all sorts of crazy people with all sorts of crazy builds of the Talos Principle with VDPAU and whatnot testing this. And I mean, it's not surprising that the brand new graphics API is not performing as good as the established standard, but I mean, you get a much smoother experience and it will only improve while time goes on. But wipeout.
No, it's not. At first, I thought that maybe this was going to be a wipeout type game on Linux. So I sent the guys an email and they got back to us and they sent us some keys. Kudos to the fine folks at Digital Lion for doing that. Their repertoire also includes Rock and Roll, which is literally a rock simulator.
That game is my jam, considering our only game is Brick Simulator. Come on.
Yeah, it's a rock. You play as a rock and you roll around. That's literally all you do. And also Happy Bug, which if you happen to go on the show notes and click the link, mind your eyes. Yeah, so this thing is busted. Ven had a bit in the show notes and it's like, oh, did the Unity screen of Nope give it away? Yeah, that was the first red flag, definitely. But the moment I started the game and actually got into a race, I was immediately destroyed.
Yep, I got spite Nope right then because I was like, okay, how does this thing control logically? Nope, boom, you're dead. And I was like, oh, look, Alt F4, done.
Yes. So I actually stuck around after that, and after all the quote-unquote AI had gone away, I managed to sort of figure out, okay, it's using the mouse for turning the ship left and right, and to do the shooty bits and what have yous. But the window does not lock the cursor into it.
Lovely.
So if you move, I was running it on the monitor on the left, so if I moved the mouse all the way to the left, I couldn't turn past a certain point, and if I moved it all the way to the right, at one point it would just literally stop registering my inputs because the cursor was gone.
These graphics bring me back to the 3DFX days of like, wow, that's groundbreaking work for the late 90s.
To be fair, Wipeout 3 did come out in 1999, 2000
right-ish.
I wasn't born back then, so
yeah.
Right. So let's talk about something we don't normally get to talk about here on LinuxGamecast. Windows Central.
10.
I know.
Take it away, it burns.
Oh my God. Well, it looks like old man Microsoft wants to take another stab at that store thingy. P-Man, why would we even bring this up?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because of all the Windows fanboys that have been going around telling us Linux users that, oh yeah, Microsoft isn't going to do that whole selling games through its store thing, so SteamOS is irrelevant. Yeah.
Wait a minute, Jordan. I thought SteamOS on Linux was created for the sole purpose to get away from Microsoft locking in its exclusive titles using their horrible store that doesn't even support vSync.
No, SteamOS was supposed to be a solution for installing Steam on your horse, which you could then beat to death week after week after week.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, it's going to take more than a couple. Realistically, it's going to take more than a couple exclusive games to make the Windows Store an actual thing. And the other thing, and you can always just stream these games from your Xbox One, brah, because you just want to install. you want to play games from your 3-year-old laptop on your freaking PC with the i7 and the 980. That just makes perfect sense.
No.
I don't know, man. I mean, this all came to a head with what did I just have? What is it called? Quantum Break. Because that was supposed to be an exclusive. I can't do the noise they make when they stream that. But the X-Pros get really upset. And just because it's coming to PC on Windows 10, not only, all right, we need to make that another thing, also requires Windows 10. I don't know what the NSA has put in Windows 10 to make them want to push this thing so hard.
I don't know.
Well, you get free NSA Cloud RAM, but a thought does occur. I mean, there is a lot of similarity between the Xbox One and Windows 10 PCs. I mean, you got the API, DirectX 12, 3-year-old laptop hardware, all that shit. So maybe this is a way to fast track ports from the Xbox One to PC to get sort of a better presence on Windows 10 gaming, because people are really, really digging that whole privacy hemorrhaging thing that Windows 10 does.
That's the thing. There are quite a few Windows-centric channels on YouTube that have been sort of defending this move in the way that, oh yeah, Valve totally needs some competition, which I get. I do. Trust me, I do. Valve does need some competition, but it does not need it from the Windows Store.
Well, you can play your Forza and your Gears of War and your Minecraft Windows 10 edition, which is just the gimped up Xbox version that no one actually plays.
I don't know. I mean, that's definitely like the two reasons I even put this in here, especially in the Steam section, because I completely agree with Pedro that Valve genuinely needs a nice, thorough kick in their teeth organs. Because,
what, Galaxy isn't doing that?
No, man. But this, I hear this upcomer called Desura is hot on their heels.
Yeah, they just have to get some financial stuff in order first.
Right. They're working on it. A little bit of VC funding. They'll take care of that. But there is a part of me that genuinely wants to see this take off. So maybe Valve will double down more on the Linux and the Vulkan, and
or maybe actually promote that stuff. Who knows?
Promote it, do it. I mean, improve the product. I think nothing but good can come from this. From being such a horrible Microsoft-y thing. And I was like, I thought you were done doing this asshattery, but apparently not.
They're never done. But coming up next, we discuss some greater implications about the Vulkan release, such as AMD's stellar driver situation, and also some documentation that got removed from the show notes.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, time for some news. And in true LGC tradition, we start with some drivers. Yes, it's NVIDIA's. And it's the mystical unicorn of the NVIDIA open source drivers. Yeah. NVIDIA has actually released the signed firmware images for the Maxwell series cards. So the Nouveau guys can actually finally get around to supporting the 750, 750 Ti, 950, 960, 970, 980, 980 Ti, Titan X, whatever you want.
No, not the 980 Ti and not the 960 either. Those are coming soon because they have the signed firmware images up to the 980. And they said,
I mean, definitely after looking at that and reading that, my first thought was, oh, right, Pascal, that must be getting ready to release because NVIDIA's kind of their modus operandi.
Also, it's 2016. They're at the end of their numbering convention.
True. But J-Man, now that we have this means that I can instantly go out and play all the latest games with my open source NVIDIA drivers, right?
I mean, the OpenGL support is there in Mesa and in the Nouveau driver, so technically it'll work. Not well, but I mean, your tunneling electron microscope can really only do so much. And I mean, this is really a step in the right direction because now that they have a mechanism within Nouveau and within their drivers for loading signed firmware images, they're talking about how you can add additional signed firmware or additional firmware as long as the signed one is in place. So this is a step in the right direction for faster turnaround time on the development of the open source NVIDIA drivers. But it's nice of them to not actually shaft the Mesa dudes for once, because they're trying to work hard. They're trying to get a nice out-of-the-box graphical solution for Linux until you can get your proprietary drivers installed. I mean, ideally, you do away with them, but that's not how the world works.
Yeah. And assuming Pascal won't be as different from Maxwell, except for the high bandwidth memory bits, as Maxwell was from Kepler, maybe supporting the new architecture will actually be easier.
Well, they actually do say that in the post on the mailing list. The link to it is in our show notes. But they're saying that this loader evolves in lockstep with the architecture. So there's some issues with getting older versions of signed firmware supported. But as new cards come out with new architectures, they have the infrastructure now to enable loading a signed firmware, hopefully. But then you have a very valid concern about the release timing of this signed firmware.
Yeah, I mean, it's just definitely what you're thinking about, man. I mean, I just kind of wish, just for once, NVIDIA, come on, guys. For once, release this before the product reaches end of life. Because that was just my first thought. I was like, okay, I guess, genuinely, I was like, Pascal, coming next quarter. All right, here it is. All right, signaled. It would be nice to get the open source going on, at the same time, let it develop. I mean, it's not competing against your proprietary blob.
At any
right.
It's just trying to be an open source solution so that if you don't want the blob, you can actually use your computer.
Yep.
But the big news this week, we talked about a little more in the Steam segment, but Vulkan is out.
Oh my God, Ron pulled that.
You can go to Qo'noS.org/Vulkan because you got to look at the monkey. Look at the silly monkey. The docs and the samples are now available on GitHub. Look at all those wonderful sponsors. And the first one in the top tier doesn't even have Linux drivers. A little bit. But right now, devs, all you have to do is click your Vulkan buttons, and all games and software, past, present, and future, will be ported over to this wonderful, wonderful Moon Magic that has just
Vulkan
been released. You bred my goddamn mind. Needs more muffins. But I mean, there is still a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation floating around about what Vulkan is. We got this lovely chart provided by I don't remember who, but it says so in tiny text in the image. I'm not going to go read it right now. But in short, you do have to actually rewrite your entire rendering engine using Vulkan. It's going to be a lot more complicated because the driver doesn't make assumptions, or the driver doesn't correct the sketchy shit that you do. You actually have to build it from the ground up with memory management, with optimization. And, modern developers, low-level optimized code, it's a little sketchy.
It is. I mean, a lot of people complain. You still have to do the same thing with the DX12. It is very verbose. I mean, if you ever worked with Glide back in the 3DFX days, I was like, it's kind of what you're going to be dealing with. It's not horrible. It is also compatible with SDL2 out of the box, which I thought was nice. You can pull the Windows function, get the information from that. Making a triangle wasn't terribly difficult. I mean, it's above my head. That's about as far as I could go with a monkey see, monkey do mentality. But hey, man, I mean, it is Moon Magic, baby.
Yeah,
it is. What with the Lunar Glass developing the drivers. You're welcome, guy in hate mail section.
Yeah, one of the things that the whatever his name is that made the little info chart, he actually brought up a very nice point, which was do you explicitly want control over everything? If you don't want control, you can take a look at existing libraries or even use a full engine like Unity or Unreal. This is the point that we already mentioned last week, that if, game engines like Unity 3D or Unreal 4 support Vulkan out of the box, developers will have a much easier time with it.
Yeah, I mean,
most of that will be abstracted.
You got to give them credit, man. Yep. I mean, Qo'noS did not drop this as like, it's kind of beta. It was like, here's all the sauce. A lot of people are backing it. A lot of companies. I am just looking forward to it. But if we're going to be using it, we're going to need some drivers.
Oh, yeah. What?
Yeah. straight day one. NVIDIA, yes, that check cleared, Monster Cameron. They, like, here they are, Brad. You want 32-bit? You want 64-bit? I mean, it's definitely a thing. And this is going to run on, basically 600 plus and up. Good on them. So, what are your thoughts? You wanted to give a Dota 2 a test drive? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, Valve had been working really hard on getting a Vulkan version of Dota 2. They demoed it at GDC last year, yeah. So, I mean, apparently you can add a -Vulkan flag to the launch options. I have yet to test this out because these drivers are based on the 355 branch, which means it looks like they did backport the Steam Spite crash thing. But
yeah, this is based on the 355 branch, which was released before the Steam Spite crashing thing started happening. And considering how long, wasn't it? Considering how long it took Vulkan to actually come out, this was probably the driver that they had at the time to get it running.
You see, I was just like, yeah, you're right, P-Man, for once, and I was completely doing that. And then I ran, the non-VDPAU bench with the Talos principle, like up until now, the performance, GL performance between your 970 and my 980, negligible. And I was like, same deal, I mean,
just a couple of firms.
Right. I mean, one could go either way. We didn't know until we did it. Yeah. To me, I mean, this driver definitely smells like a custom gerb made to extract all the performance out of whatever GPU, NVIDIA GPU, for now, for the Sirius engine. I mean, be it Vulkan or GL, because this was the first time where I was like, I have the highest benchmarks, and I think it's because I have a 980 for once.
Yeah, and it makes sense because that's exactly what Vulkan allows you to do. It creates, it sort of lessens the abstraction layer that you need between software and the hardware. And that's pretty important because not only does it reduce... Yeah, not only does it reduce latency, it actually makes the CPU bottleneck less of an issue.
I do want to say one thing real quick for Amon X. It doesn't look like Vulkan will be coming to Fermi, though. So
yeah, that's gotta suck. I mean, he has the 590 Ti, which was the top of the line card. Now doesn't support the new hotness. Got to be kicking yourself about that. But another well-known hardware fab has released a Vulkan driver. Guess who it is? It's not AMD. Of course, it's Intel.
Hey, man, last time we saw this guy, he was riding a bicycle.
That's true. He must have recovered from that horrible broken neck. No, the open source Vulkan drivers for Linux are now available from o1.org, which is Intel's open source site. Currently, they're only supporting Broadwell and Skylake. Bay Trail, Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, and the rest of them are currently in experimental support. Apparently there's some 32-bit compatibility issues. They're nice enough to provide a copper repo for Fedora and a PPA for Ubuntu. Sorry, Arch users, you gotta build that yourself. But here's the interesting thing, because I've long been advocating that games should be targeting like Intel IGPs for the video cards that they use, because that is probably the lowest common denominator. If you have a poor student who has a laptop who wants to play some games on it,
it's actually over 50%.
Yeah, there you go. So when you're a poor student, you have your laptop for college, you want to take some notes, maybe play some games. I'm curious to see, with this new driver, what the performance boost for Intel IGPs is going to be with Vulkan games, because maybe, just maybe, they might be able to play these games at medium.
Yeah, and the irony of this thing is that CPU-bound games will work better on an Intel IGP right now without Vulkan than, say, an 8150 with a 980. Well, we've kind of debunked that over the course of the past week, but hyperbole aside, it would make cheapo laptops a more viable thing for your college students, like Jordan already mentioned. But what I'm really interested in is that in the meantime, AMD is far too busy blowing bubbles while having their head up their own ass.
Well, I mean, they released a video, right? That's almost as good as a driver.
Oh, yeah, that's totally. Yeah. Completely.
I don't know. I mean, that whole thing just irritates me, because every time AMD has a very good chance, something based off Mantle that they developed, They're like, no.
That's the thing, but AMD actually scored pretty good on the benchmarks, on the DirectX 12 benchmarks. AMD scored better than NVIDIA, so AMD is probably at this point banking on DirectX 12.
Actually, Pedro, you had a great reaction in Google Plus on Tuesday when that got released. It's the Dewey thing from Malcolm in the Middle. I expected nothing, and I'm still disappointed. That basically sums up our reaction to AMD's stance on Vulkan.
Well, let's talk about somebody who's helping Linux. Yeah. Epic Games they have awarded 100,000 Wet Stinky in the latest round of educational development grants. I mean, they're throwing it out there. I mean, 14, 10, 11, 8, 14. It's brilliant. What is this? You never heard about it. I mean, basically, if you want to put your money where your mouth is, and they're like, hey, if you guys want to, develop a game and it looks pretty good, hey, we're Epic. The guys with the open source game engine that you don't have to pay for. I mean, you can license it if you really want to, but, maybe we'll take a little cut on top of that if you don't want to license it. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And we're going to help spawn development by awarding these grants, and they are making good on it. Good guy.
They are. And a lot of these grants aren't for games, but for people who are creating resources to teach people how to use the Unreal Engine. Because you got to realize that when you have an open source engine that people can modify, you should be supporting the people in your community who take the time to promote and improve and educate people on that. AMD.
Yeah, that's exactly the point that I was going to take another pot shot at AMD, but yeah, no. I mean, Monster Cameron here in Chat Realm can only argue so much in a week.
That's all right. LGC Brad can take care of him if he gets too pissed off.
Yeah.
But it's time to go into the final frontier. This is Aperion, a remake of Knights of the Old Republic. This is done entirely in the Unreal Engine, or Unreal Engine 4, which sort of fits into what we were talking about earlier. They're completely redoing the visual stuff. All they're using is the, I think it's just the game, or it's the game audio and voice. Everything else is going to be done from scratch. And it's going to, I mean, it looks pretty nice so far. These are the early screenshots and whatnot and concept art. But here's what I'm concerned about. You remember that Vampire the Masquerade?
Wow, that does look a little bit different from the original to what they've updated.
Just a bit.
Oh, yeah, just a little bit. They put some work into this, but you remember that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines remake that was happening in Unity, right?
Oh, you mean the one that got noped from orbit?
Oh, yeah. See, this seems like a cool project, but what is the under-over? Like, I'm taking bets. Hair Mouse is going to nope this really, really quick, ain't he?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes this is going to be you're right, J-Man. This is actually, I think it's going to be a very interesting one to watch, because under the guidance of Lucas, hate him as much as you want, he was like, hey, man, as long as you guys are making parodies and doing things and you're not charging for them.
As long as you're not charging. That was
right. I mean, have at. So, yes, I completely agree with you. I don't want to take bets. I just want to go sit down on that, have a seat over there with my popcorn and just see what happens. What do you think, P-Man?
They actually say that one of the bits in the page is this legal? And they say, we believe so. That's, reassuring.
Here's the thing. Legality doesn't actually come into fair use, because what I can do as a multi-billion-dollar corporation is sue you and keep suing you until you run out of money, because I won't.
Yeah,
and that's how you enforce the law.
Their only point in this argument is that games like Black Mesa did it with Half-Life, but Valve is pretty lax. And Renegade X rebuilt Command & Conquer in the Unreal Engine 3. Again, Command & Conquer hasn't been relevant in a long, long time.
Neither was Vampires the Masquerade.
Yeah. What's his name? The guys in charge of Eve bought that out. They're trying to make an MMO, but that doesn't matter. Coming up next, we take a bite out of some 3-layer of fear bean dip, and it doesn't sit well in our stomachs. Wait and see the gas. It's spoopy time. And by that, I mean it's time to throw some chairs at Layers of Fear by the Bloober team, published by Aspire, our good pals, based out of Texas. This is a Unity game. You can pick it up for around $20 of your local currency. And what is it? Layers of Fear is a first-person psychedelic horror game with no psychedelic rock whatsoever, and a heavy focus on story and exploration on rails. Players take control of a painter whose sole purpose is to finish his magnum opus, which is the brand of whiskey he likes to drink. Full disclosure, Aspire sent us keys, so
Yes.
keep that in mind. We got our chairquisition. 1 chair means that it's garbage. 2 chairs means that it's meth. 3 chairs means that it's pretty good. 4 chairs means that it's amazeballs. We also got our categories Doom mixed with working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So let's kick this off. Layer it on me, then. How did it make with the working?
Oh, shut your cake. Well, over here on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS, 980 displayed, 4K powered, box of the business. I got to say, performance is genuinely better than it was in early access. That's not really saying a whole lot. And before you, the hate mail, people from Aspire have already been in Linux_gaming subreddit saying, yeah, we know performance has an issue. So don't tell me it runs on your 8K 486 at 1,000 frames a second. That said, it suffers really big issues. You think about it, there's a studio that you basically start at. I'm not spoiling anything. That's where your save game starts. And like moving less than 20 degrees, you can go from 111 FERPs to 12. I mean, it is what? For no reason. You don't really know what's going on there. And you better get used to that shite. So, it works, but, with a 980, nope. Not so much. I'm going to give it 3 chairs. I'm going to have to ding it for the performance.
Oh, yeah. I had to bust out the pulse _latency_MSEC equals 60 to get the sound working, because this is a Unity 4 game in 2016. Booga booga. Speaking of chugging, this thing chugs at 4K. It struggles to maintain above 30 FPS. So I had to knock that back down to 1080p. And you know what? It struggles to maintain 30 at 1080 on a 980 with an i7 6000K running Fedora 2264-bit. But, I mean, it suffers the same gone home stairs syndrome, where if you try to ascend or descend a flight of stairs, performance just tanks. Because, stairs are the most difficult part of any game. Not if Richard Simmons has something to say about that. And, it has the same issue with the Stanley Parable, where if you don't follow the exact path you're supposed to go, it tries to render the entire room at once, so you can sort of see where the twists and turns are going to come from if you stare through windows. So, no real issues beyond that. I'm going to ding it a chair because of the audio issue, so it gets 3.
Yeah, and on Fedora 23, 64-bit with the 8370E overclocked at 4.2 GHz and the GTX 970 Strix. Well, considering I have both my 1080p monitors set up in twin view, it did that stupid Unity thing of trying to full screen into both monitors and failing miserably. But it only did that during the early access bits. They fixed it for the final version, so that's good. The scariest thing about this game, besides all the wasted liquor, is how low the FERPs will dip when you're looking at a static corner of an otherwise mundane room. Like Ven already mentioned, when you go upstairs to the office, you're looking at a specific corner, and if you turn around, you'll get like 80, 100 FERPs, whatever. But if you look at that specific corner, you'll get 12. I think that pretty much sets the tone for the rest of my bits in this review. 3 chairs.
All right, that's 3 chairs to mix with the working. Up next is Shiny and the sounds. Ven, did it shin?
Let's be honest with ourselves, gentlemen. For a Unity game, this looks fantastic. Unfortunately, the imaginary light sources make everything shimmer just a bit unnaturally. I mean, I have a little sub-game called Find the Light Source, because something will be completely illuminated, and it tries to adhere to, like, with lights on, this area lights up, but sometimes, like, behind a bookshelf, you'll know what I'm talking about if you played this game, it's lit up and there's no lights, and I was like, okay, that's definitely a thing. The textures and models are well done, but they are hella overused. I straight up collect pipes. I do. And I don't own that many pipe holders. I mean, there's a pipe holder in like every other room. They all have the same damn pipes. That kind of irritated me as someone who likes to smoke some pipe. You know what I'm saying? Now, this game, when we're talking about the audio experience, it is all about the audio, man. Seriously, atmosphere. It has it in spades. You get your squeaks, you get your groans and your creaks, and all that sound is completely legit until you get bored with it. Because, basically it's doing a proper job of emulating something that Frictional has been doing for almost a decade 1,000 times better. But it looks really good. I dare to say it's probably the second best looking Unity game I've ever played. If it wasn't for that glossy, shiny effect for things being overly illuminated, I would give it 4 chairs, but I'm still going to give it 3 because it deserves it.
Yeah, someone figured out the secret to making Unity games not look like shit. Don't use any of the stock assets. Mm-hmm. And everything looks great until you look in a mirror, because that's when the whole verisimilitude falls apart. You get, as for the sounds, and like Ben said, they're very well done. The voice acting is competently done, which is a rare sight for Unity games, and the ooky spoopy atmosphere is there. It sounds like an old house, and I've lived in an old house. It sounds like that. And with the audio and the visual cues, it draws your attention to where it should be to set up the jump scare. So that's competently done. But the one spoopiness that just failed completely on its face was the baby dolls. It was just way too hilarious. I was laughing way too hard. But you know what? All things considered, it's pretty good. 3 chairs minus a couple of the issues. Otherwise, I would have gotten 4. But moving on. Pedro.
Yeah. Visually and audibly, this game nailed it. It's too bad that doesn't translate into mechanics, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The music was... it took some heavy inspiration from Silent Hill, and if you're doing a horror game, ripping off Akira Yamaoka is probably the best thing you can do. It's a very good-looking Unity game, like Ven and Jordan already mentioned. If you're not using the stock assets and buying some other from the store and then sticking them together like cardboard pieces with spit, and, putting it on Steam and calling it a game, you're actually doing a pretty good job, and that's what they did. I can't really fault them on anything when it comes to the shiny and the sound, so I can give it 4 chairs.
All right, that's 3 chairs for shiny and sounds. Up next is the control. Then, how do you move your hand around?
Carefully, very, very carefully. But here's the thing, Brad. If you have the testicular fortitude to show me a Frictional game's hand, guess what? I best be able to fuck around with all the things. At least, I can't believe I'm saying this, Gone Home got that right. You could at least pick up everything and stack it in the living room and organize it, like some people have done in chat room, which that was brilliant of you. Way back in the day. Outside of that, everything else works, and it should, since you're effectively playing a 3D hidden object game, he says. So, outside of when you see the amnesia hand and it only works on some things, you're going to get dinged a chair for that because you're not Frictional, so 3 chairs.
Yeah, you get your amnesia hand of clicking and dragging and your WASD movement, and that's about it. It does get ding a chair, though, just because it's not 100% reliable. If you're not at the magic angle in which you can open up a drawer, because there is an achievement for opening up all the drawers that I tried my damnedest to get before I completely lost interest. It will not open. You'll just be flailing your mouse around like an idiot, and then you'll start playing Layers of Fear and you'll just fail to open doors. So that'll get 3 cheers.
Yeah, they streamlined the controls down to just the basics. You get your movement, your interaction, canceling out of said interaction, and that's it. There's rebindable controls, and contrary to most other Unity games, the mouse sensitivity is actually pretty sane. If you move the slider, it'll actually go from not moving at all to stupidly sensitive, so good on them for that. When you hold down the shift key, I wouldn't exactly call what your character does sprinting.
Fumbling faster.
No. Even calling it a brisk pace is
power walk.
Well, it's hyperbole, basically. All it really does on a practical level is to lower the mouse sensitivity even further. So, yeah, there's just no point. But really, that's just me picking at the nits. I can actually give it 4 chairs.
No, that still gets 3 chairs for control. So let's move on to our final category, fun. Did this layer on the fun, Ben? Or do you fear that it'll fall flat?
Definitely didn't later on the cake, Brad. Again, this is a 3D hidden object game with several jump scares mixed in with the most generic story in the world. And to top it off, you want to put a cherry on that layer cake, it's also on rails, because I'm so sick of opening doors and one of the... Actually, you know what, guys? Guys, let's just cut to the chase on this, all right? I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I'm going to spoil kind of like a big plot thing, so skip ahead until you see a Canadian if you don't, if you want to preserve your innocence. All right, you've been warned in 3, 2, 1. Nothing can really hurt or kill you. It can basically just kind of reset you. All right, and after you realize that you're invulnerable, it's just a poorly done find object X and use it to interact with object Y simulator. And wow, I mean, I guess all I could say is that if you genuinely want to drop 20 wet sneaky caches on a semi-interactive story, you might want to check out Gone Home, because it's a better story.
Until the end.
I can't say I had no fun whatsoever. And again, Aspire was good enough to send us copies of this for testing. We've had it in early access for quite some time. It's just not my cup of chainsaw by any means. I mean, we've played through all the Penumbras and the Amnesias and the Machines for Pigs and the Somas, and you know, those guys, they only do one thing, but they do that one thing really good. So this is kind of like a hollow representation of that. I got up to about the one arm part before I realized it's like, oh, look, nothing can hurt me. And once you remove your headphones, or you cut down and you put on some Slayer, there is nothing to this game other than Opening Door Simulator 2016. That is all there is. It's just trudging through it, trying to unlock all the cupboards, because that's definitely a thing. I'm going to give it 2 cheers on the off chance that you genuinely hate yourself and you're fiscally responsible.
Yeah, this shit is so very much on rails. Such rails, wow. I mean, Pedro will go into this a lot further. He has literally a small essay written on this. But it is a walk into a room and find a key simulator. And motherfucker, I can't even find my keys in real life. You expect me to play a game for fun where your goal is to find keys? No. I mean, the atmosphere is sort of there, but the payoffs aren't really that great. You can tell when there's a jump scare that's being telegraphed, and sometimes like shit will be thrown behind you, like a knife will skim by your head and be like, oh all right, cool.
You're just
like Mama's Kitchen,
right?
Yeah. I mean, when I'm on the drugs, it's sort of spoopy, but that's because I'm not really paying attention to much. And when the loud noise happens, I snap back to attention. Also, I got a question, Ben. How come all the baby heads are white?
Whitey's got to pay in that price. Jordan is baby heads.
Fair enough. I mean, I struggle to maintain my Carl, my name's Paul. You're sitting. Never sit. This is upsetting me. All right, anyways. Yeah, this game is sort of like the Stanley Parable insofar as it's without the humor or the choices or anything that actually made that game enjoyable. I was literally watching The Flash and mashing on like W and moving my mouse around, and I made it through halfway through this game. I mean, it's about 3 hours long. If you actually play through the entire thing, according to the devs, you can get through it in like 2. There's not really that much to it. And aside from some okay atmosphere, it really falls flat. So I'm going to give that 1 share.
Yeah, like Jordan already hinted at, this is find whatever the developer coded as a key to use on whatever the developer coded as a door, the game. It seems to suffer
or a light switch.
From many of the problems that the current generation of horror games seem to. The overuse of a given trope without rhyme or reason, zero branching or decision making, again, it's on fucking rails. Random, supposedly scary events that just had me laughing my ass off. The point that I stopped playing was when a doll came running out of a door and went face first into one of the cupboards. I laughed so hard I had to hit Alt F4 at that point.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't really have a flashlight, so I can't really fault it for being shitty on that regard, but I can fault it for being shitty on many others. You see, of all these Silent Hill games it could rip off, it went for The Room. Silent Hill 4 The Room was riddled with missteps and good ideas implemented poorly. I liked its premise, just like the premise in Layers of Fear is very appealing. Did you kill your wife? Did she just die from her affliction? Where's your kid? Those are all questions that I would very much like to see answered organically. Oh, but Pedro, what do you mean organically? I mean storytelling through gameplay. The best example I can think of is Fallout 2, and if you want to stay within the horror genre, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. But no, that's not what happens in this game. All you get is plot dumps by picking up notes, or staring at pictures, or literally staring at a goddamn painting while standing still, not being able to do a damn thing about it. And this is the point where you can cue the watching paint dry jokes. I'm serious. Did no one during the development of this game actually stop to consider that their horror game may actually be used as the butt of a then watching paint dry joke? But that's beside the point. The atmosphere kind of works right up until the music starts looping for the third time in a row because you're taking too long to figure out what the developer was thinking at any given puzzle. That and the FERPs take a dive whenever there's about to be a more complex thing happening, like a jump scare. That's an immersion killer right there. And then there's probably the most controversial point of my opinion when it comes to this game, which is ludonarrative dissonance, when the gameplay clashes with the premise/plot. You're a painter trying to finish your magnum opus, yet you go around in circles in your house doing anything but pick up a goddamn paintbrush. Now,
I don't know. That's a pretty apt metaphor for the creative process.
Yeah, one might make the argument that's because he's using something else, something more sinister for his magnum opus. But literally all you're doing in the game is finding keys to open doors and combinations to padlocks and safes. Oh, but look at all of the dark imagery that you have going on. Bitch, I played through Amnesia: The Dark Descent twice over. You want dark imagery? Play that thing twice over while paying attention. That's got plenty of dark imagery. This one doesn't even cut it. What really kills it for me is the over-reliance on jump scares. You remember the Outlast review we did? Yeah, I hated that one too. One chair.
Oh, hang on. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was looking for my prop skeleton so I could replace me with it, so we could illustrate how long that actually took. Okay, that's one chair for fun, and I too have a dream. No, I'm not going to go into that. So if we tally all that up, we get 2 chairs for layer cake of fear, 3-layer fear dip burrito. I don't care what it is. I'm not a fan. Gentlemen, final thoughts.
Well, if Dorian Gray had gone to Silent Hill and suffering from after suffering from amnesia, that would have been a better horror story than this game.
I don't know. My first thoughts with this was, let's face facts. A Machine for Pigs was on rails effectively as well.
Yes.
You start off with the same premise that, oh, look, I can go explore. You really can't. Same thing with this game. The thing with Amnesia, before, you hit that point in Amnesia, you're like, oh, all right, don't have to care about this game either. Up until that point, the story, holy fuckballs. You're like, oh, what is going on here? This game, you're like, meh, all right. So you might have noped up your wife or maybe your kid. Who knows? Who cares? But the biggest thing I'd take away from this is I'm a fuck-mothering Vin Stone. In real life, this game is at best for me a Tuesday, all right? I'm sorry. I'm no Ooga Booga for me.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, anytime Ben starts painting, you basically end up in this scenario anyways. Drunk and stumbling around your house, trying to find a way out, and maybe some teeth to use as white paint, but that's just really racist. I mean, honestly, Aspire, this isn't your fault. You just published the turd. You didn't actually write it. But I mean, this game is boring. I cannot maintain my interest. I had to literally multitask while playing this game to even make progress because I just didn't care. I don't. Listen, if you like walking simulators, maybe give this a look. When it goes on sale for like $2, don't stay away. Just stay away. But up next, we got some hate mail, and we fulfill a prophecy made in the future of the past.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's about time to wrap up, and you know what that means? It's some hate mail. Yeah,
wrong.
Get in touch with us.
It's time. It's time to shill our wares, right? Because if you go over to patreon.com/ or not Patreon.com, LinuxGamecast.com/support the shows. I was actually going to say Patreon.com/support the shows because that's the mental state I'm in currently. But if you go over to LinuxGamecast.com/support the shows or just LinuxGamecast.com, click on that button. We got some lovely Amazon affiliate links for the US and the UK. We got some PayPal donato buttons. You get a nice little badge. You can donate $3.50 a month and you still get Super Squad access. But the best way to get Super Squad access, of course, is to go over to our Patreon page. We have lovely people paying for every single show. All we're asking for is 5 cents. We got some lovely goals. We got 2 more episodes of Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays until we need more funding. So if you want to see that, get us to $135 per show. It's going to be brilliant. We also have some lovely backer levels for you if you want show note access or a nifty little forum title. We need to actually have a better pipeline to Contact Empty, so we're going to be discussing that later. But it's brilliant. We enjoy your support. We love it. If you can't donate, tell your friends, tell a dog. Tweet at, I don't know, Scott Michaud and tell him to stop posting our articles and forum threads on PC Perspective. Or tell him to keep on doing it. Doesn't matter. Just spread the word.
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right.
So apparently someone threw something somewhere.
Yeah, me
during
writes.
last week's after show.
He wrote this, and I read it, and I was like, oh, shit, yeah, son, that happened. He said, seems I forgot about that bottle I threw in the washing machine during the Linux Gamecast after shows, and seems to be doing fine in the laundry. You get a brownie point for using the word shows. No, Mia joined us for the after show. We were playing some feuds and all that, and he had a washer quite a bit away from him.
That was open, yeah.
He was like, I bet you can't get a bottle on that. He's like, wham! Second one, nailed it. It was brilliant. So, good on you, Mir. I just wanted to give him a plug for hanging out for the after shows and pulling that off. It was brilliant to watch. But, all right, let's get in some real hate mail.
All right, this is from Yosef, and he's talking about the XCOM 2 review, and he says, I've sunk 51 hours into XCOM 2 already, and I haven't even succeeded yet. I had to drop to easy. I'm running an Intel i5-2500K with 8 gigabytes RAM, 750 Ti, and it runs smoothly aside from the action cam, which is a lag city. Booting the game takes several minutes, like 6 to 10 minutes I brew coffee. XCOM is slow too. Wonder if it's an Unreal thing. Who knows? Yes, it is actually an Unreal thing, because you got to compile all the shaders before you get into the game. That is, that is Unreal 3's fault. The moral of the story is stop using it. Unreal 4 is out.
No, I mean, it's just really good to get some feedback like this from somebody who's genuinely like, yeah, it kind of runs like ass bread. As opposed to, P-Man, you've seen in the discussion forums, they're just white knighting and it's like, there's no problems. It runs great on my GTX 450 on my i3.
The bullshit posters. Yeah.
Right now,
there's also and there's also that thing that when you're returning from a mission, when you're going back to the Avenger, if you push the caps lock button, it will outright skip the entire loading screen.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell?
It's not a bug, it's a feature, Pedro.
What the hell?
It's like the turbo button on the Turbo NES controller. It just speeds things up.
And why that's even there, we don't even know. I mean, I would love to have been the one that discovered this. Because you know that person was like, all right, let's see if we can reproduce this.
Mash face on keyboard.
Bella, wait.
But up next, MOON, that spells Vulkan. This is from 3Vol, then dig it.
All right, I'm listening to the Qo'noS Vulkan webinar as I type this. Good on you, I tried and I fell asleep twice. And something finally occurred to me. The Vulkan SDK was created by LunarG. Could this be the moon technology that Vin is so fond of talking about? The first time Vin says, getting this to work does not involve some kind of moon technology, TM. Good on you. In regards to some aspect of a Vulkan game, I will be sorely disappointed if Jordan doesn't interject with
moo. Well, I did it in the earlier segment, but yes, it fucking does.
All right, keep up the great show. Ow, you could not have cut us more deeply.
We make sacrifices for our art and for you guys, so appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I mean, that's definitely the thing. I mean, that's why, crowdfunding, financing through Patreon, because no one would give us a show. We had to do it with your help, and we're going to continue doing it, because on that bombshell, let's cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Standard Moon Time. It's a bit of nightmare fuel. Hope you enjoy it and continue to do so. I'm at Vince Stone, cleverly disguised also, plus Vince Stone on the G+s.
I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me at linuxgamecast.com/linuxgamecast or at Twitter at @TheBurningFool or plus Jordan Svung on the Google Pluses.
And it's always a great show from where I'm sitting because I'm usually drunk at this point. I am Peter Matheus. You can always find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter or plus Peter Matheus on Google+.
And just because we need the screen cap, just like live long and Spocker.
It's two in the pink, two in the stink, man.
That's racist. It's talking to you.
I love it.
He's enthralled.
I don't know why, but I love it.
I must kiss you.
Oh my god, I killed Nori. No, please don't. I love her.
5 dudes.